Only one story around, isn't there? So Keir Starmer under pressure tonight to strip the British citizenship of the anti-white racist Jew hater Alaa Abd el-Fattah, the activist he welcomed into Britain at the weekend. In a nod to Lucy Connolly, the mother sentenced to 2.5 years under this government for a hastily written and quickly deleted tweet after the Southport riots, Reform UK's Zia Youssef, I argue, hit the nail on the head today by posting this on X. He said, "In Britain, if you threaten to kill a protected minority, you're jailed. If you threaten to kill white people, British people, Americans, gays and Jews, like el-Fattah, you get granted citizenship by the Tories and celebrated by the Labour Prime Minister. Welcome to Britain." It's worth reminding ourselves just why Mr el-Fattah's return to the UK is so controversial. Here's a selection of his tweets dating back around 10 years. Let's start with this one, shall we? He wrote, "Yes, I consider killing any colonialists and especially Zionists heroic. We need to kill more of them." Another one said, "Random shooting of white males should convince them racism costs lives." Another said, "I rejoice when Zionists are killed." And there are plenty more to go through as well, but to be honest, we could be here for hours.
Let's be honest, this story didn't creep into the headlines quietly. It kicked the door down. One moment, Britain is talking about free speech and fairness. The next, the entire debate explodes around one uncomfortable comparison. Lucy Connolly on one side, Alaa Abd el-Fattah on the other. And suddenly, people across the political spectrum are asking the same blunt question. How can the system come down hard on one person for a single emotional tweet, while rolling out the red carpet for someone with years of documented extremist rhetoric? That question is driving everything you're about to hear. The first crack in the system appears when you place these two cases side by side. Lucy Connolly wrote one tweet in a moment of anger following the Southport riots. She deleted it. She apologized. That didn't stop the justice system from making an example of her. A prison sentence followed, and with it, a permanent public label. Meanwhile, Alaa Abd el-Fattah, whose online history spans more than a decade, is not only forgiven, but granted citizenship and publicly welcomed. To many observers, this isn't nuance, it's imbalance. And when people sense imbalance in justice, trust evaporates fast. And here's where the argument stops being emotional and starts being factual. Alaa Abd el-Fattah's past statements aren't rumors or exaggerations. They're archived, screenshotted, time-stamped. Calls celebrating violence, statements openly hostile toward entire groups. These weren't jokes misunderstood years later. They were explicit declarations that had already cost him recognition and awards in the past. That history raises an obvious question. If private citizens are expected to face consequences for impulsive posts, why does someone with a long record of inflammatory rhetoric receive benefit of the doubt at the highest level? That question gets sharper when officials claim ignorance. The explanation offered is an information failure. Somehow these tweets weren't properly considered. But critics aren't buying it. Parliamentary debates, transcripts and public records show that Abd el-Fattah's imprisonment abroad was repeatedly described as punishment for online speech. That alone implies awareness. Governments don't operate without research teams, intelligence briefings and legal reviews. So when leaders say, "we didn't know," the public hears, "we didn't care enough to check," and that perception is toxic. This is where Lucy Connolly's voice cuts through the noise. Her position isn't rooted in revenge or bitterness. She has said clearly she doesn't want people jailed for speech alone. She believes in free expression, but she also believes rules must apply evenly. Free speech doesn't mean anything if enforcement depends on political alignment. If one apology erases years of rhetoric, while another apology means nothing, then speech laws stop being about safety and start being about status. At this point, the phrase two-tier justice enters the conversation, and it refuses to leave. Critics argue that some groups face maximum punishment, while others receive maximum understanding. Whether that perception is legally accurate matters less than how deeply it's felt. Once people believe the system plays favorites, compliance turns into resentment, and resentment doesn't stay quiet. It spreads, multiplies, and eventually reshapes political outcomes. Then there's the cultural amplifier effect. Celebrities, activists, and public figures rush to defend Abd el-Fattah, framing his case as moral and urgent. Lucy Connolly points out the contrast. Where was that energy when ordinary people were arrested and jailed for posts written during emotional breaking points? Compassion in this context feels selective, and selective compassion looks a lot like hypocrisy when viewed from the outside. As pressure builds, leadership responds with carefully worded statements, acknowledgements, reviews, promises to investigate information failures. But those words land softly against a hard public mood. Reviews don't answer accountability. Someone signed off, someone approved, someone decided this was acceptable. And when leadership appears insulated from consequences, anger sharpens. People don't want another process, they want clarity. The debate then shifts to citizenship itself. Citizenship isn't just paperwork, it's symbolic. It sends a message about values and priorities. Lucy Connolly argues that granting citizenship in this case sends the wrong signal, not because of one tweet or one belief, but because of a documented pattern. The message many people receive is that loyalty and restraint matter less than ideological usefulness. And that's a dangerous takeaway for any society. At this stage, the story stops being about two individuals. It becomes a referendum on fairness, on whether apologies mean the same thing for everyone, on whether speech laws exist to protect society or to manage optics. People aren't asking for perfection, they're asking for consistency, and consistency is the one thing missing from this entire episode. The longer this debate continues, the clearer one truth becomes. This isn't going away, because once people believe justice depends on who you are rather than what you did, faith in institutions erodes, and rebuilding that faith takes more than statements. It takes equal standards applied equally, even when it's politically inconvenient. Now, we want to hear from you. Is this compassion or is it contradiction? Are the rules being applied evenly, or are we watching double standards play out in real time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you believe fairness should never be selective. Subscribe to Global Pulse News for direct, unfiltered coverage that doesn't dodge the tough questions. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay sharp.